Would you like to improve your English reading skills? In this lesson, we're going to read a newspaper article together so you can learn a lot of advanced vocabulary, complex grammar, complex sentence structure, and natural pronunciation in a very fun and engaging way. And at the end of this lesson, I'll share a link to a free PDF that summarizes everything that you learned in this lesson. I'll also read the article in full right at the end, so make sure you watch right till the end. Welcome back to JForrest English Training. Of course, I'm Jennifer, and this is your place to become a fluent, confident English speaker. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to our article today. As you can see, we're talking about the navigation app Waze. Let's read the headline. Feels like Google is letting Waze die. Widespread bug makes Google Maps the only option. Now, in North America, Waze is not very popular. I actually don't know many people, if anyone, who use Waze. Most people just use Google Maps or Apple Maps for navigation. But when I was living in Costa Rica, Waze was the preferred choice. Everybody used Waze. So what's it like in your country? Do you use Waze? Do you use Google Maps, Apple Maps? Share that in the comments. Let's talk about this headline here. Feels like Google is letting Waze die. Widespread bug. I think most people know this because it's a computer term, right? A bug is a problem. And we use this specifically with technology. So I can't use this app. There's some sort of bug. So some sort of problem. I don't know what it is. I can't use this app. There's a bug. There's a problem. Or you might ask someone, can you help me? Can you help me fix this bug, this problem, specific with technology? So you can definitely use the noun bug when you're using it in the context of technology. It's very common. Now, widespread, I hope you understand from the context of the article, but spread is when something moves. So we use this a lot with illnesses, the spread of COVID. That's probably how you've heard it before. So when something moves. So widespread is when it's a problem or a situation that impacts many people or many places. Widespread. So this is an adjective. So as an example sentence, I could say corruption is widespread. This is my adjective. Corruption is widespread in our company. So corruption affects many people or many different areas of our company. So a very useful adjective you can use. So they're saying this problem with the Waze app affects many different people. So let's move on to our next paragraph. While the number of alternatives keeps growing, with renowned names like TomTom and Sygic, I don't know what this is, to be honest. Do you? Sygic? Sygic? I don't know how to pronounce this. I'll just say Sygic. I may be incorrect. If you know what this is, I assume it's a GPS style app. TomTom and Sygic also investing in similar software. Most people continue to run Google Maps and Waze because of obvious reasons. All right, a renowned. This is an adjective, and when someone or something is renowned, it means they're well known by many different people or within a specific industry. Simply, you can think of it as famous, renowned. Notice my pronunciation of this ED here. Renowned. So for example, we often use this with people, companies, places. So because I mentioned Costa Rica before, I could say Costa Rica is renowned for its natural beauty. There are a lot of beautiful waterfalls, volcanoes, rainforests in Costa Rica. Renowned for. So the sentence structure here is to be renowned for something. Now, if something is a noun, so here my noun is its natural beauty. If you have a verb, your verb is in the gerund form, so doing something. So I might say, for example, Costa Rica is a noun for, now I need a gerund verb. Renowned for growing coffee. Costa Rica has amazing coffee as well. Here I have a verb and it's in the gerund form. So why don't you share what your country or your city, if you live in a very big country, your city or your company, whatever you'd like, but your city, that would be a good one, is renowned for. And you can practice with a noun and then try changing that to a gerund verb as well. So practice that in the comments below. And let's continue on. They are both free. They come with state-of-the-art navigation capabilities, and they are owned by a technology giant that should theoretically guarantee a bright future. So these are the benefits that the article was listing about Google Maps and Waze, because here, remember, they say obvious reasons. Well, what are the obvious reasons that people use Google Maps or Waze? Now they've listed those obvious reasons. Free, state of the art. This is a great adjective. Notice the dashes here. So when you're spelling it, pay attention to things like that. The dashes, generally for adjectives, if there's two words or two or more words, a compound adjective, we put dashes between them, state of the art. And notice it comes before the noun because it's an adjective, but you could also describe something. You could say, our new research facility is state of the art. Our new research facility to be state of the art. Now, of course, when something is state of the art, it means it has the most recent technology, the most recent everything. It is extremely modern, extremely innovative, state of the art. So you can try using that adjective too when you're thinking about something your city is renowned for, famous for. Why not share something in your city that is also state of the art to practice that adjective? All right, let's continue on. And yet, when I see this word here, yet, this is a transition word. It's an adverb, and it lets me know that there's going to be a contrast. So all of this is positive, right? So without even reading this second paragraph, I know that they're going to talk about some disadvantages, some drawbacks, because all of this was positive, and the word yet is used when there's a contrast. For example, I could say, I'm really tired. Let's just consider this a negative. I'm really tired. Now, I could say something more positive, more contrasting. Yet, I gave a great presentation, because it might surprise you to think I gave a great presentation when I'm really tired. So there's that contrast. Another example could be, I could say, I'm really tired, yet, what could I say? Yet, I went for a jog. I went for a jog, a run. This is another way of saying I went running. It's just a very natural way of saying I went running. I went for a run. This is a noun. A run, this is a noun. Run is a verb. So I highly suggest you add this to your vocabulary specific for run and jog because it's very commonly used. We also use it with I went for a walk, I went for a hike. You could also say I went for a bike ride, for example. So you're basically taking your verb form, which would be I went hiking, and you're turning it into a noun by saying a hike. That's something bonus I just taught you because I naturally wrote that because it's a very natural way of saying it. I'm really tired, yet I went for a run. So you wouldn't expect me to go running if I'm tired. It's surprising. So why don't you try a contrast in the comment section? I'm really tired, yet what did you do? That's surprising that you did it when you're tired. So as I said, I know that there's going to be some sort of contrast in this second paragraph simply because of that one word yet. That shows you the importance of including a specific adverb. It really prepares your audience for the meaning of your message. All right, and yet is not a surprise that things sometimes go wrong for absolutely no clear reason. And in the case of Waze, the most recent struggle comes down to mysterious freezing happening on Android Auto. Okay, so this is the negative. It's the bug. Remember at the very beginning, we are talking about a bug? Well, now we know what the bug is in Waze. So if you use Waze, have you experienced this bug that they're talking about? And what's the bug? The bug is mysterious freezing. Mysterious just lets you know you weren't expecting it and you don't know why. It's mysterious. Now, freezing is when you're talking and there's pauses. So it would be when you enter a destination in Waze and it's giving you directions, turn left, turn right, go straight, but then it stops directing you. And it tells you you're still on this street, even though you passed that street 5 blocks ago. So the app is frozen. So notice we take the word freeze and we can use it in many different ways. I might say, I have to restart my computer because it's frozen. So everything stops working. My mouse won't move. I try to close a web page. It doesn't close. It's frozen. So our verb is to be frozen. To be frozen. To be frozen. You can use this with your computer, your cell phone, even your television. If you're watching a movie, it could just freeze, for example. Now, you might say also, I think my computer has a bug, has a problem, has a bug. I think my computer has a bug. It's been freezing all day. So you're using the computer and then all of a sudden it freezes, it's frozen, and then you restart it and then it does it again. That could be your bug. And notice my verb is freeze and it's in the present perfect continuous because it's an action that started in the past and it continues until now. And I put it in the continuous to focus on the continuation of that action. All right, let's continue on. First spotted earlier this year, the problem is becoming more widespread. So we know what widespread is. Before, the problem only affected 10% of users, 15%. But now if it's widespread, I imagine it would affect 60%, 70% of users, 50% or more, the majority of users. It's widespread. Now, first spotted, this means first noticed or detected. When you use the verb spot in this context, it means notice or detect. Noticed, detect. Let me give you an example using spot. This is a verb. So I could say, I hope my boss doesn't spot any errors in my report. I hope my boss doesn't notice, doesn't detect. Another way of saying see, basically. I hope my boss doesn't see. See because you're looking specifically for it. I hope my boss doesn't spot any errors in my report. Maybe it would be better to say teacher, for example. I hope my teacher doesn't spot any errors in my report. Errors in my grammar, my punctuation, my vocabulary, for example. So that could be a good one. We also use this with people. You could spot someone. You might say, I spotted Sarah at the conference. So in this case, it makes sense because there are a lot of people at the conference, and then you see, you notice, you detect because you're looking for Sarah. I think Sarah is here. Oh, there she is. I spotted Sarah at the conference. So it is a good one. For now, you can practice it with spot, something like an error in a report. Let's continue on. Oh, we didn't finish this. So first spotted, first noticed, the bug was first noticed earlier this year. The problem's becoming more widespread, going to more people, with more and more users claiming they have no other option than to switch to Google Maps. All right. As such, some people believe this is actually what Google wants in the first place, as they think that Waze could eventually have the same fate as so many other Google products, including most recently our beloved Stadia. I also don't know what Stadia is. I don't know if it's Stadia or Stadia. I'm not sure how to pronounce that A, to be honest. Stadia. Do you know what this app is? If you do, share it in the comments as well. Okay, let's continue on. So here's where our headline came from. Is Google quitting Waze and letting it die? So by letting it die, it means that if you ignore the product, you don't try to improve it, eventually more and more people will stop using it. And if 0 people are using it, well, then the product won't exist anymore. And in that sense, it's dead, right? Is Google quitting Waze and letting it die? One of the many users hitting the aforementioned problem asked rhetorically. Rhetorically, when you ask something rhetorically, you don't expect an answer. So here's a question. How can I fix this bug? But let's imagine I say this question out loud and there are some other people around me and they kind of look at me like, what are you talking about? What bug? Why would you think I know how to fix it? But they don't actually say that. They're just like, huh? Then I could say something like, don't worry. It's a rhetorical question. Don't worry, it's a rhetorical question, which means I don't actually expect an answer. I don't want an answer. I don't need an answer. I'm just saying it out loud. So it's a useful word to know. Notice here it's an adjective. And here it's an adverb. It's an adverb because it modifies the verb ask. And here it modifies the noun question. I do see it probably more commonly as an adjective, and it comes before question. It's a rhetorical question. So rhetorical, no need to answer. And I would say, I don't want, don't expect, don't need an answer. I'm just talking out loud, so I will get rid of that. Let's continue on. So in this context, is Google quitting Waze or letting it die? He wasn't actually expecting anyone to answer that. He was just saying it out loud. That's what rhetorically means in this context. All right, let's continue on. While I do understand why so many people come down to such a conclusion, Google isn't trying to get rid of Waze. The application is playing an essential part in the company's long-term commitment to solutions aimed at improving the experience behind the wheel. Behind the wheel, this means while you're driving. Because you as the driver, your position, here's the wheel, and I'm behind the wheel. So we use this, sometimes you'll see advertisements. Now, let's say this is alcohol. Someone might say, don't drink and get behind the wheel, which is another way of saying don't drink and drive, right? So it just means to be driving if you're behind the wheel. Now here I notice they say come down to such a conclusion. That's just another way of saying so many people reach a conclusion, they get to that conclusion. I'll just say you can reach a conclusion. All right, and our final paragraph. Not a long time ago, Google brought the Google Maps and Waze teams under the same roof, specifically to allow them to work together on innovations that would eventually be aimed at users of both apps. Okay, so under the same roof, well, above me is a ceiling, but then on top of the ceiling, on the exterior, that's the roof of my house, right? So the ceiling is what you see from the inside, but from the outside, you see the roofs. So under the same roof means on the same team, basically. The teams were working perhaps at separate locations, and now if they're under the same roof, it means they're in one location. So that's could be a useful expression as well. All right, so that is our article. Now what I'll do is I'll read the article from start to finish so you can focus on my pronunciation and practice along with my pronunciation as well. Feels like Google is letting Waze die. Widespread bug makes Google Maps the only option. While the number of alternatives keeps growing, with renowned names like TomTom and Cygic also investing in similar software, most people continue to run Google Maps and Waze because of obvious reasons. They are both free, they come with state-of-the-art navigation capabilities, and they are owned by a technology giant that should theoretically guarantee a bright future. And yet, it's not a surprise that things sometimes go wrong for absolutely no clear reason. And in the case of Waze, the most recent struggle comes down to mysterious freezing happening on Android Auto. First spotted earlier this year, the problem is becoming more widespread, with more and more users claiming they have no other option than to switch to Google Maps. As such, some people believe this is actually what Google wants in the first place, as they think that Waze could eventually have the same fate as so many other Google products, including most recently our beloved Stadia. Is Google quitting Waze and letting it die? One of the many users hitting the aforementioned problem asks rhetorically. While I do understand why so many people come down to such a conclusion, Google isn't trying to get rid of Waze. The application is playing an essential part in the company's long-term commitment to solutions aimed at improving the experience behind the wheel. Not a long time ago, Google brought the Google Maps and Waze teams under the same roof, specifically to allow them to work together on innovations that would eventually be aimed at users of both apps. Amazing job with this lesson. I hope you enjoyed the article. If you did, let me know in the comments. And what was your favorite new word from this article? Share that in the comments as well. And if you look in the description of this video, you'll find the link to download the free lesson PDF that summarizes everything you learned today. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. And before you go, make sure you head on over to my website, JForrestEnglish.com, and download your free speaking guide. In this guide, I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. And until next time, happy studying!